Imagine sitting quietly, reflecting on your life, and suddenly realizing that the person you think you are is only half the story. Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, discovered that beneath the surface of our daily lives, our routines, our smiles, our carefully curated identities, lie two psychological reveals that expose who we truly are. These aren't the words we speak, the goals we chase, or the image we project to the world. They're deeper, more primal, and they slip out when we least expect it. These two reveals not only show you the truth about yourself, but also hold the key to transforming your life into one of purpose, authenticity, and connection. By the end of this journey, you'll not only see yourself with new clarity, but also discover the courage to become who you were always meant to be. Jung spent his life studying the human psyche, peeling back the layers of what he called the persona, the mask we wear to navigate the world. He believed that most of us live our lives unaware of the forces shaping our thoughts, feelings, and actions. But no matter how polished our mask, no matter how carefully we craft our image, these two psychological tells always break through. They're not hidden in grand gestures or dramatic moments. They're in the quiet, unguarded moments of your day, moments you might not even notice. And once you learn to recognize them, you'll never see yourself or others the same way again. What makes Jung's discovery so powerful and so unsettling is that these reveals don't just show you who you are, they force you to face the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. Jung wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Most of us spend our lives chasing comfort, approval, or success, believing these will make us whole. But Jung understood that true wholeness comes from confronting the uncomfortable truths within us. These two reveals are like mirrors, reflecting not just your strengths but also your shadows, the parts of you that you've buried, ignored, or rejected. Let's dive into these two psychological windows and explore how they can change the way you live. The first psychological reveal is what I call inner dialogue decoding, listening to the silent conversations you have with yourself when no one else is listening. Jung believed that our inner dialogue, the thoughts that run through our minds in moments of solitude or stress, is a direct line to our unconscious. He wrote, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." This inner voice isn't just random noise, it's a map to your deepest fears, desires, and truths. But most of us never stop to listen. We drown it out with distractions, scrolling, working, or filling our lives with noise to avoid the discomfort of silence. Imagine this: you're driving alone, replaying a conversation from earlier that day. Maybe a coworker took credit for your idea, or a friend brushed off something you said. Your inner voice starts spinning, "They're so selfish," or "I should have spoken up," or "I'm never good enough." These thoughts aren't just fleeting reactions. Jung would say they're messages from your unconscious, revealing the parts of yourself you haven't fully faced. The tone, the intensity, and the patterns in your inner dialogue expose your shadow, the hidden aspects of your personality that you've pushed away. Let's meet Emma, a teacher who prides herself on her patience and kindness. But in her quiet moments, Emma's inner voice is harsh. When a student challenges her in class, her mind spirals. "They're so disrespectful. Kids these days have no manners." She doesn't say this out loud, but the intensity of her thoughts surprises her. Jung would see this as a projection of Emma's shadow. Deep down, she struggles with her own need for control and respect, but she's buried these desires because they clash with her image as the kind teacher. Her inner dialogue, especially when it's critical or defensive, reveals this conflict. Here's why inner dialogue decoding works so reliably: your unconscious doesn't lie. When you're alone with your thoughts, there's no one to impress, no persona to maintain. The stories you tell yourself, whether they're about your worth, your failures, or other people's flaws, reveal what you're wrestling with beneath the surface. If your inner voice is constantly self-critical, calling you a failure or not good enough, it might point to a rejected part of yourself that craves validation. If it's judgmental of others, it's often from projecting traits you're afraid to acknowledge in yourself. Jung wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Your inner dialogue is a doorway to that understanding." Try this. The next time you catch yourself lost in thought, pause and listen. What's the tone of your inner voice? Is it kind or cruel? Is it focused on others' flaws or your own insecurities? Write down what you hear without judgment. This simple act of decoding your inner dialogue can reveal patterns you've never noticed before. If you've ever had a moment where your thoughts surprised you, revealing something deeper about yourself, comment, "My inner voice is my teacher." The second psychological reveal is what I call authenticity triggers, observing how you respond when your sense of self is challenged. Jung understood that we all wear a persona, a social mask that helps us fit in, succeed, or feel safe. But when that mask is questioned, when someone criticizes you, overlooks you, or catches you off guard, your authentic self emerges. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, but becoming your true self means facing moments when your carefully constructed identity is tested. These moments, these authenticity triggers, reveal your character more clearly than any planned speech or polished performance." Imagine Mark, a manager known for his confidence and leadership. He's built his career on being the decisive, in-control guy. But during a team meeting, a junior colleague questions his strategy in front of everyone. Mark's face flushes, his voice sharpens, and he snaps, "Let's stick to the plan. We don't have time for this." In that moment, his persona cracks. The confident leader disappears, revealing someone insecure, afraid of being seen as wrong. Jung would say this authenticity trigger exposed Mark's true character, not his polished exterior, but the vulnerable core he's been hiding. Authenticity triggers don't just happen in big moments like public criticism. They show up in everyday life, when you're cut off in traffic and your temper flares, when a friend forgets to invite you to a gathering and you feel a pang of rejection, or when you make a mistake and your first instinct is to cover it up. Watch for these moments. Notice your body language. Do your shoulders tense? Does your voice change? Do you deflect, attack, or withdraw? These reactions aren't random, they're windows into your authentic self. Jung wrote, "The foundation of all mental illness is the unwillingness to experience legitimate suffering." When your persona is challenged, your response shows whether you're willing to face that suffering or whether you cling to your mask. Here's the power of authenticity triggers. They're universal and unavoidable. No one can maintain their persona perfectly all the time. When the mask slips, you get a glimpse of the real person underneath. Not just their flaws, but their potential for growth. The most integrated people, those Jung called individuated, respond to these triggers with curiosity and honesty. They don't lash out or hide, they pause, reflect, and choose authenticity over defense. If you've ever caught yourself reacting defensively, but chose to respond with openness instead, comment, "I choose authenticity over defense." Now that we've explored these two reveals, inner dialogue, decoding, and authenticity triggers, let's talk about why they matter. Jung believed that the purpose of life isn't to be perfect, it's to become conscious. He wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." These two reveals work because they bypass your conscious control. Your inner dialogue and your reactions to triggers operate from the unconscious, revealing truths you can't fake or hide. But seeing these patterns is only the first step. The real transformation happens when you own them. Let's revisit Emma, the teacher. When she starts decoding her inner dialogue, she notices how often her thoughts judge others as disrespectful. Instead of dismissing this as just how I think, she asks herself, why does disrespect bother me so much? Through reflection, she realizes she's been suppressing her own need for respect, afraid it makes her seem selfish. By owning this pattern, she begins to advocate for herself in healthier ways, setting boundaries with her students without resentment. Her inner dialogue becomes less judgmental, more compassionate, toward others and herself. Now consider Mark, the manager. The next time someone challenges his ideas, he notices his authenticity trigger the flush of heat, the urge to snap back. Instead of reacting, he pauses and asks himself, what am I afraid of right now? He realizes his need to always seem in control stems from a fear of failure. By owning this, he starts responding to criticism with curiosity, asking questions instead of shutting people down. His team notices the shift. They feel safer, more valued, and Mark feels more authentic. This process of owning your patterns is what Jung called individuation, the journey toward becoming your whole authentic self. It's not about erasing your flaws or hiding your shadow. It's about integrating them, using them as fuel for growth. Jung wrote, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. Every time you decode your inner dialogue or face an authenticity trigger consciously, you're choosing who you become. Let's make this practical. How do you apply these reveals in your everyday life? Start with a shadow journal. For 1 week, write down moments when your inner voice is loud, whether it's judging someone, criticizing yourself, or spinning anxious thoughts. Then ask, what does this reveal about me? Don't judge what you find, just observe. This builds self-awareness without shame. Next, pay attention to your authenticity triggers. Notice when your mask slips, maybe when you're stressed, criticized, or ignored. Instead of reacting automatically, pause and ask, what's really going on here? What am I protecting? These small acts of awareness create big shifts over time. In relationships, use these reveals to deepen connection. If your partner's inner dialogue is full of self-doubt, gently ask, do you ever feel like you're harder on yourself than you need to be? If a friend snaps when their competence is questioned, don't take it personally. See it as their authenticity trigger and respond with empathy, not judgment. At work, notice how colleagues react under pressure. Do they deflect blame or take responsibility? This tells you more about their character than their resume ever could. But here's the most important part: turn these reveals inward. Jung wrote, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Every time you judge someone, ask, where does this judgment live in me? Every time you feel defensive, ask, what am I afraid of losing? This self-reflection transforms your reactions into opportunities for growth. If you're ready to start this journey, comment, I'm ready to see myself clearly. Before we go further, a warning: self-discovery can be misused. Jung wrote, the greatest danger is that one may get stuck in the unconscious and never come back to reality. It's easy to become obsessed with analyzing your patterns or others, turning insight into a weapon. Here are the sides you're veering off track. You feel superior when you figure yourself out. You use your observations to manipulate others' vulnerabilities. You focus only on others' flaws, avoiding your own. Or you get lost in endless self-analysis, disconnecting from real relationships. The antidote is what Jung called an ethical relationship to the unconscious. Use these reveals to build compassion, not control. When you see your own shadow or someone else's, don't judge, understand. Recognize that everyone is navigating their own pain, fear, and growth. True self-discovery makes you more humble, not more arrogant. It deepens your connection to others, not your distance from them. The most profound aspect of Jung's framework is what I call the mirror effect. Every person you meet, every reaction you have, reflects something about your own psyche. The colleague who irritates you with their arrogance, they're showing you your own struggle with confidence or humility. The friend you admire for their creativity, they're reflecting your own unclaimed potential. Jung wrote, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Every interaction is a classroom, every judgment a lesson. I once had a coworker whose constant need to be liked drove me up the wall. I judged her as weak, desperate for approval. But when I applied Jung's lens, I saw the mirror. I was judging in her what I feared in myself, my own need for validation, carefully hidden behind a tough exterior. By owning this, I softened. I stopped judging her and started understanding myself. This is the power of the mirror effect. It turns every relationship into a path to self-discovery. As you practice these reveals, decoding your inner dialogue, facing your authenticity triggers and owning your patterns, you'll notice something extraordinary. Your consciousness creates ripples. When you stop reacting to others' projections or defending your persona, you change the dynamic. People sense your authenticity, even if they can't name it. They might say you seem calmer or more real. What they're sensing is your refusal to play unconscious games. You're no longer feeding their projections or reinforcing their defenses. This creates what I call consciousness contagion. Your awareness invites others to be more aware, not by preaching, but by embodying authenticity. Some will resist. They're comfortable in their unconscious patterns. But others will be drawn to your presence, inspired to drop their own masks. Jung wrote, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Your consciousness transforms not just you, but everyone around you. Jung believed that the purpose of life is to become conscious, to integrate your shadow, drop your persona, and live authentically. This isn't a destination, it's a practice. Every time you catch your inner voice judging, you have a choice: react or reflect. Every time an authenticity trigger flares, you can defend your mask or embrace your truth. These small choices build a life of meaning and connection. Jung wrote, the difference between a good life and a bad life is how well you walk through the fire. The fire is the discomfort of facing your shadow, the vulnerability of dropping your mask, the courage of choosing authenticity. But this fire doesn't destroy you, it forges you. It burns away the inauthentic, leaving behind a stronger, truer version of yourself. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be conscious, to see your patterns clearly, to understand your struggles deeply, and to connect authentically with the world around you. Every step you take toward consciousness creates ripples that touch your relationships, your work, your community. You become what Jung called a culture creator, someone who models a new way of being, not through words but through presence. So, start today. Listen to your inner dialogue, face your authenticity triggers, own your patterns, and watch as your life transforms, not just for you, but for everyone you touch. Jung wrote, "As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being." Your light is your consciousness, your authenticity, your willingness to see and be seen. If you're ready to kindle that light, comment, "I choose to live consciously." Thank you for joining me on this journey. Your path to authenticity starts now. Let's meet in the next dimension of consciousness.